Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said to be pushing for a change to childhood vaccinations. Secretary Kennedy is looking at the Danish system, which recommends only 10 of the 17 shots on the U.S. list. Joining us now, former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He serves on the boards of Illumina, Pfizer, and United Health. He is also a CNBC contributor. Good morning, Dr. Gottlieb. Good to have you on.
Good morning.
What do you think of this? I would, you know, when you talk about stimulating the immune system, there are obviously great benefits to be able to do that in terms of these herd diseases that we basically have eradicated. Then again, I can see how, in a perfect world, if they were gone, I'd rather not be introducing, antigens, foreign things into my body or my kid's body if I didn't have to. Does this make sense the way Denmark does it?
Well, look, they make a decision to accept preventable hospitalizations in the pediatric population. They have a much different healthcare system than us. They have paid sick leave. They have universal health care. But they also accept a higher rate of hospitalization and deaths, quite frankly, on a per capita basis. They don't vaccinate for flu, hepatitis B, hepatitis A, rotavirus, varicella, so chickenpox, meningococcal disease, which is a devastating disease, rare but devastating, RSV prevention in children and adults. And just to put that in perspective, RSV alone, before vaccination, accounted for 60 to 80,000 pediatric hospitalizations in the United States under the age of 5, about 100 to 300 deaths annually. It was fully 10% of all hospitalizations, infant hospitalizations, were accounted for by RSV. That's dropped 70 to 85% as a result of the introduction, not of a vaccine, but an antibody drug that's used as prophylaxis and also a maternal vaccine, so a drug called Beyfortus by Sanofi. Give you another example with varicella, chickenpox. We all remember getting it. There were 100 to 200 deaths a year from varicella and about 11,000 hospitalizations. So these aren't benign diseases, and they put a big burden on the healthcare system and families and cause a lot of morbidity. They accept that in Denmark. They also have different patterns of spread among these diseases. Historically, we have not accepted that. If we go to the Danish model and we end vaccination or substantially reduce vaccination for these diseases, we're going to see them resurge, and we're going to have to build new pediatric hospitals.
So what's the scientific rationale for doing it then? Or there isn't one?
Well, look, they put forward arguments about purported causal relationships between vaccines and autism and other things. I mean, the argument is constantly shifting. Before, it was supposed to be the preservative thimerosal that was in vaccines that caused autism. Once we reformulated the vaccines at FDA, and I was there when we did it to take that preservative out, the argument shifted to the adjuvants in the vaccine. They also say that children get too many vaccines, but if you look at historically, in 1985, children were vaccinated for 7 diseases and received about 3,000 antigens. Today, they're vaccinated for 15 diseases and receive about 180 antigens to get back to your initial point. And so you're getting protection from more diseases with fewer exposure to antigens. I think this is really about, quite frankly, liability. If they move away from recommending these vaccines and move them to a different configuration on the CDC schedule called shared clinical decision-making, there's a question of whether or not they will still have liability protection under the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, so whether people will be able to seek compensation through the VICP or they'll have to sue manufacturers directly. And a lot of, Secretary Kennedy's trial lawyer colleagues want to be able to sue the manufacturers directly and not have to guide parents through the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. And in fact, they were on Twitter this weekend saying that. They were talking about a number of the people close to Kennedy on the outside who work in the trial lawyer community. We're talking about the fact that if these get moved off the recommended schedule, it will waive the liability shield that is currently in place, that was put in place to entice manufacturers back into the space. I will say this is an open question. There's arguments on both sides of this question whether or not these vaccines will still fall under the VICP. It's going to get litigated. They may have to go through rulemaking. So this is an open question, and ultimately Congress could step in and legislate, although I'm doubtful that they would.
Have studies been done on the adjuvants that you were talking about and whether that could actually be one of the reasons for the increasing rates of autism? Because it almost looks like this is that, and the way the word science is thrown around lately, at least for me, there's plenty of science that I think is junk science. I do, but just to have a feeling, wow, there's a lot of autism, must be, maybe it's the adjuvants, it's obviously not the thimerosal, maybe it's Tylenol. It just seems sort of scattershot, and it almost seems like not science-based, and it doesn't seem like the way you want to run a healthcare system.
Yeah, look, I think the rising rates of autism, we know some of it's related to diagnosis. There's probably demographic factors at play. Older birth cohorts, people having children at an older age.
Well,
we know that there's
Scott, just thinking it might be because it coincides with the advent of a lot of vaccine usage. Just using a coincident indicator without having the double-blinded studies that take into account all the variables doesn't seem like the way you should be setting policy in the country.
Well, look, I agree with you, Joe, and there's been good studies done looking at...
Why don't more people say it then? They're afraid to say it?
Well, a lot of people do say it. I think that, the people currently in control in the public health agencies don't say it, but there's been a lot of good studies. This has been one of the most exhaustively studied questions probably in modern times, and there's 4 studies that people generally point to, 2 that were done by the CDC, 2 that were done by Denmark, believe it or not. They do very good vaccine research there, looking at the question of whether or not there's a causal relationship between increasing vaccination and rising incidence of autism. And these were long, exhaustive studies, some of the largest studies done, and they didn't show a correlation between vaccination and rising incidences of autism. And the thing that a lot of the people who are opposed to vaccination, and Secretary Kennedy points to, is an adjuvant used in the vaccines called alum. We've talked about this. It's an aluminum salt, not elemental aluminum. It's an aluminum salt. It's been used since about 1930. It was introduced when, the history of the Great Depression that Andrew wrote about started. So it's been used in vaccines for a very long time. It's a safe adjuvant. It's used, as you know, as an immune booster so that you can get a better response from the antigens in the vaccine. And if you took it out, you'd have to put more antigen into the vaccine, which you wouldn't want to do. But that's what people point to now. After thimerosal was removed from the vaccines, the argument of the anti-vaxxers shifted to, well, it must be the alum then.